Hello there, Leo.
Hello, Rahan. How are you doing?
I'm good. Welcome to episode 4.
Yeah, welcome everybody to episode 4. Today we're going to show one of the most cool components of lowcodera, right, Rahan?
You like this one? I think a lot of people like this one. Roadmaps, always
Yeah,
a crowd pleaser, I would say. So, very excited about going through today's episode and showing everyone what we can do with roadmaps in Power Apps, and particularly the lowcodera roadmap, which I think is a very unique component, which really brings a Power App to life. And this represents the fourth part of our building this task management app, and the roadmap I think is a key part of the overall application experience for end users. So really looking forward to you taking us through it step by step. But for those people that are just joining us, maybe for the first time, that haven't seen the app, which we've been building progressively, why don't we start by introducing the app again and running through some of the features and what we've done so far before moving on to today's session.
yeah, okay. Let's go back a little bit then.
Yes. So this is our task management app. What you're seeing in front of you is one of the earlier lessons which you've already been through. This app is showing a bunch of tasks which exist in SharePoint, and we are presenting these inside of a Power App. We can filter by progress on this page. I also believe we have a dashboard somewhere as well, which shows us even more information about the progress
Yeah,
of
you're
these
right.
tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And on this page, we can see not only the progress, but we can also determine the importance of the tasks and any issues which are emerging against those tasks, such as them being overdue. We can also see any new tasks which have been recently added to the system. I think we'll get on to how to build this page next week, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Leo?
Yeah, that's right. That's
I know
correct.
some people are looking forward to that session. We then proceeded on to building a Kanban view of these tasks, which allowed these tasks to interactively be visualized, but also from a lifecycle perspective, control and manage the flow of these tasks as they progress from one stage to the next, and have those key bits of information depicted on the cards. And today, I believe we are going to be talking about providing an interactive roadmap view of this data. And that's what we've got on screen at the moment. So we can see it looks like a nicely organized roadmap. I believe we can use the filters along the top to, in this case, filter by the different categories. So we want to know what tasks are blocked, which ones have not been started, which ones have been completed. We can use that filter. So lots of interesting use of colors. We can also, I guess, change the view or the time scale between different settings up there. So you can view it by quarter. Years probably not useful in this situation, but you can also view it as a daily set of tasks. So that's all good. And we're going to be showing how to connect this up to the data source. Where it becomes interactive is this roadmap also allows the manipulation of data directly inside of the component itself as well, right? So do you just want to maybe quickly demonstrate how that works? So there you are,
Mm-hmm.
adjusting the duration. Are we able to also move the tasks as well?
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's you in real time changing the actual time span of the task and where it sits on the roadmap as well. And I can see a
Mm-hmm.
little save button on the top right as well, which we're going to be expanding on hopefully. So you're going to be telling us today in detail how to build one of these roadmaps against the data set.
Yeah, right. And what I think is interesting about this component is that we have a nice view for tasks or for projects or things that
Mhm.
goes along with this timeline, and we can see a lot of information in a visual way, which is make it more simple to understand what is going on. So
Yeah,
this is one of my favorite components of lowcodera.
amazing. So Leo, take us away. I think for the people joining us, they'd love to know how to build one of these from scratch.
All right, let's go. So I'm going back to the app we were building last week, and let's insert a new blank screen to start building our own roadmap. Okay. And if you want to follow us and build the app yourself, you can, of course, watch the live sessions that we're doing, but you can also have access to this extra material that you can find at live.lowcodera.com. And here you can find snippets of the formulas and explanations about everything that we are doing here. So it's a very rich material that is going to help you to build your own app. Okay. All
It's
right.
very kind of you, Leo, to put that together. I know it makes it really simple to just copy and paste the code
Yeah,
into
definitely. And
the
even
apps.
for me, it's also helpful because I don't have a really good memory. So if I forget anything, I can just go back to the guide. Right.
So you've got a cigar in one of your hands. You're taking it easy, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay, okay. All right. So first thing we're going to do here is to get the data into our app. And for that, I'm going to just create a button to start with, but then we can change. Um so let's rename this button for Clear Collect, because this is what we are going to do here. And with this Clear Collect, I'm going to get our data source into a collection, right? So let's use the Clear Collect
Yeah.
formula.
Leo, just especially for the new people joining us, it's probably worth reminding them about where the data source, underlying data source for this app actually is, right? It's SharePoint. We've got a SharePoint
Oh yeah.
list, right?
Yeah,
Uh, maybe we
yeah,
can.
good point, Rehan. So let's show the data source. Our data source is this SharePoint list here. We are storing different tasks, and we have categories, we have progress, priorities, and of course start date, due date, and other information about the tasks.
Yes,
So yeah.
everything we would hopefully need to create a roadmap, particularly the dates which we've got in there.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine those are going to be useful.
Yes, definitely. All right, so this is our data source, and this the step we're going to take right now is to bring this data source into a collection. And the reason we're going to do this, I'm just going to say, is because we are aiming to do the best. Um, oh, what is the word?
Performance.
Performance, yes, the best
Uh,
performance for our app. So in a few minutes, we're going to understand why having this collection right here is the best way to enhance the performance of our app.
What's performance in Portuguese? I could see you struggling to try and translate it there. What's performance in Portuguese?
Actually, is exactly the same.
Oh,
I don't
really?
know. I
Okay,
was just
you
struggling.
don't have any excuse. Then.
I don't have any excuse.
Oops, I've landed you in it there. Okay, fine. We'll move
Okay.
on.
Okay. So let's clear collect. The first argument here is our data source, which is the SharePoint list we just showed. And secondly here, I'm going to leverage the show columns formula, because this formula is going to allow me to get only the columns that I'm interested in. And imagine a scenario in which you have maybe 30 or 40 columns, and you don't want to get everything into the app. So this a good practice for your performance as well. So I'm going to get only the data I'm interested in.
Yeah, and
And
SharePoint, of course, comes with a whole bunch of system-related columns as well, which often
yes,
add to the many columns already in the list. So it's worth, especially if you want to have a clutter-free collection, only taking what you need, right?
yes, good point. So just one thing I changed here. This is actually the name of the collection, and now we're going to use the name of the data source, which is our list name, called work progress tracker. And now I'm going to get only the columns that I want to use. So for the roadmap, we're going to need the work item, which is the name of the task. So this is the inside name that SharePoint gives for that column, title. What else we're going to need? Category, progress, start date, and due date. Let me see if I'm missing any other column. I don't think so.
What about an ID? Do you need an ID?
Oh, yeah, of course. Good point.
Yeah,
We need an ID.
and that will become clearer why we need an ID later, presumably when we want to save back the data, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
So
a good thing I
category.
read the script for today before the show.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And actually, I'm missing one column. We have progress category, but we don't have priority. We're going to use priority later, so let's get priority here as well. Priority. Good. And now when I press this button, we're going to get this collection in our app. So as you can see, we have data here already. And now that we have the data, let's go for adding the roadmap component. So I think I already have it here, but in case you want to add more of our components, you just do as I'm showing, get more components, go for the code tab, and here you're going to find all of the components, the code components. All right. So here's our roadmap component. Of course, we're not seeing anything here because we need to connect. So first thing I'm going to connect here is the collection we just created. So call roadmap. And now we can see that we have something there, but it's not functional already. So in the advanced tab, we need to set the columns to the right place. So we have ID. I'm going to use ID, the ID field, and let's repeat this process for all of the columns. So start date as well.
So you're just mapping the fields to the component fields that you've got
Perfect.
there. Okay.
Due date. In subcategory and main category, we're going to define right now. So our subcategory, I'm going to define as the priority, right? I'm going back here and let's define our subcategory as the priority. In our main category, we're going to use this column that is category that is showing the department assigned to the tasks.
Okay. So I can see at the moment you've got the year setting on. I think is that the default on the property.
Oh yeah, I'll get you that. we have, of course, this time scaled as we showed in the
Yeah,
demo, and
yeah,
we can change for month or for day or hour or whatever is the best view for
yeah.
our data.
So I can see, yeah, from what you're showing me in SharePoint, the dates were pretty close together. So the year mode is probably not going to have too much
Mm-hmm.
benefit in this use case unless those dates become multi-year dates. So I think probably
Mm-hmm.
the month one's the one to go for. But I can see that it's looking a bit odd. I can see some stuff happening on screen, but why does it look a bit funny, Leo? I can see some white faded out text. I don't
Yeah.
see any categories or subcategories.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
Yeah, because right now we need to understand another concept, that is the color of the categories and the subcategories. So in our demo, we showed here that we have different colors for different categories. And as you can see, the tasks are also showing different colors. So we can define colors for each different type of category or subcategory. And if you don't do this, you are, of course, going to see something like this.
Yeah.
So,
So what you're saying is we need to define the colors for our roadmap
mhm,
categories. Because I
yeah,
noticed there was some columns on the component properties which you didn't complete there, right? So
yeah,
it's just a
mhm,
case of completing
yeah,
those. But I didn't notice these columns were part
mhm,
of your initial collection which you generated, right? So
right, right. So let's add some color to our view.
right,
And the way I'm going to do is not necessarily the way you need to do, but is one way of doing. So I'm going to uh, leverage add columns formula here to add a column called color, and I'm going to define uh, one single value for this. Let's collect again, just for us to understand how it works. So here in subcategory color, I now can use this this column we
nice.
just
That's looking
created.
better. Yeah,
Yeah, and now we can see that we we actually can see the color uh, attribution for each of the tasks and for the subcategory as well. And we can do the same for the main category.
right.
And it could work this way, but of course, we want to leverage this capability of using different colors and providing more rich information.
Yes. So everything
Hmm.
is monocolor at the moment,
Yeah.
and you're going to show us presumably how to work with multiple colors against our
Hmm.
data set.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm guessing Power Effects is our best friend for this.
Yeah, Power Effects is our best friend. All
Nice.
right, so to do this, we're going to leverage a bit of Power Effects, as Ryan is saying, and I'm going to have to cheat a little bit here and get um, this color, these colors from here. So it's just a switch statement in which we are assessing which is the category and giving it a specific color. So let's just copy this piece of code here.
So it's nothing major. It's just a switch statement for the different things that you've got with some unique colors defined for each.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we are adding columns. Here's the name of the column. And I think I'm missing the parent.
Yeah.
Right, so with this, we are defining the main category color, but we need also the subcategory color. So I'm going just to copy and paste the subcategory.
So this will be more like your demo where we've got main category colors and then different subcategory colors as well.
True, yeah.
And category color is defined against the Sharepoint field called category, and subcategory maps to the priority.
Right.
Wow.
So yeah, I wasn't expecting
That's very
to,
colorful. I'm not sure I
yeah.
like all those colors, but we'll run with it.
I was not expecting to get the color before I changed
Yeah,
the fields, but okay.
yeah,
All right, so I'm going to replace this color field that we don't have anymore.
yeah.
So if I recall, we're calling it main category color. Let's go here, and subcategory color, and it should go here. Okay, now we have set our colors, and of course it's a lot of colors, and maybe we don't want to get
I think at this point, like they say at TV on the telly, don't try this at home. I think with these colors, I think we've got very excited with these colors.
right, but
We might
you
want to
know,
change them. Yeah.
we can make it more subtle. So for
Yes.
instance, we don't need to show the subcategory colors here, and I
Yes.
can just turn off the toggle here. So you can see
Yeah.
we have show subcategory, and I'm going to turn
Yes.
off. And
Yes.
yeah, it's more visually pleasant, I think, this way.
I think I can
And we,
stay on my chair now.
okay. And
So,
now we still can see that the tasks have colors, so we can identify what is the priority. So this red should be high priority,
yes.
and so on and so forth. Okay.
Yes. That makes
Right.
sense.
Right. And what I want to do now, we need to imagine a real case scenario in which we have maybe hundreds of tasks, and we don't want to bring all of the data to the app, just the data we are interested in. And what we can do is maybe filter the data.
Yes. I
Uh,
noticed that was on the demo as well.
yeah.
So filtering
So
by the priority, is that right?
filtering by the
Oh, sorry.
priority.
Yes. I couldn't remember
Or
if it was
maybe actually
priority.
the progress. Yeah, the
The
progress.
progress. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Cool.
So I'm going to insert just this simple drop down right here and get the distinct data from priority. Let's see if it works. Yeah. So we have the distinct data, and now we can use this to create a filter. So what I want to happen is that every time that I change the value here, this data should be refreshed. So maybe I can do this by just collecting the same collection again, but this time with the filter. So I'm going to property called onChanged, and let's add a filter right here. And I want this filter to have the wrong place. Right, this is after add columns, right? So here. Right, so our logical test is to get the progress equals to self-select test result. Right. So basically, what I did here is to filter by priority, and I getting the selection that we have in the dropdown. Let's try it and see if it works. All right, it's not working yet. Of course, it's not progress, it's actually priority.
Yeah.
Now let's see if it works. All right, so now I can filter the data and see only the data I'm maybe interested in. Okay, so this one way of doing it. We're doing by progress, but of course you could do by any other thing that fits your needs. All right,
Nice.
any
Okay. So
comments, Rohan?
yes. So you've stolen my thunder there. That could be any filter against any column or data you've got in your data set. It doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
priority like in this case. It could be something else. You could even
Mm-hmm.
do fancy things like sliders with date ranges. It could be another category which you may have in your data set or some other classification which you have against your data. And
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, it will be the same principle that applies. I guess, and we probably haven't got time to go into it now. You are regenerating the collection, and that may not
Yeah.
always be uh, what you want to do. You can
Mm-hmm.
actually filter the item um, on the data set of the component
Mm-hmm.
itself, so it's bound to the roadmap. But you could apply, I'm assuming, a filter to the data
Yeah, the
there, and that would,
existing collection.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that
good
would
point. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that would save the round trip to regenerating the collection, I guess.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Cool. Right. So what's next? On the demo, I also saw us being able to dynamically at runtime adjust the view.
Yeah, we can make this dynamic as well. So let's understand how it's done. I'm going to insert another drop down right here, and let's hard code the data here. So we can have different views such as day, month, quarter, year, and even hour. But in this case, we don't have hour, so it wouldn't make sense, right? So we can see that our dropdown is working, and now let's connect the data of the selection into our component. So in this time scale property, I'm going just to erase everything from here and get this from our dropdown. Let's rename for ERP time scale. I'm going to get the selection of the
Right.
object. Okay, let's try this.
So that is bound, and I can see that changing with every selection now. So that's completely dynamic now.
Yeah. All right. So I think this is another mechanism to give your
Awesome.
user a better experience and make sure the view is adequate to what the data is showing. Right.
Okay. Yes, making sense, and lots of flexibility already for the user. I guess one of the key things people are wondering by now then is how do we save the data back? We demoed earlier on the ability to be able to change the data. You showed us how to drag and move the dates
Mm-hmm.
around. I'm just wondering
Mm-hmm.
how all that side of it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as we make changes on the component, and another point is that we can turn on or turn off the ability of making this change. So we have this property called draggable. I need to turn it on before having the ability of making this kind of change here, right?
Yeah. And as you're making those changes, if you just hit play for us one more time, I can see the date ranges on the tooltips changing there, which great, give you an indication of the new duration.
Right. Yeah,
I don't
correct.
that data as you're changing it is not being written back to the collection, is it? At that
No, no.
moment,
Yeah, that's the reason that why we need to give some power effects to the component to write back the data to the collection.
right?
So we have in the component this property called onChange, and it's just like other objects of out of the box objects of Power Apps. So every time we change, we are going to perform some action, and this action is writing back to our collection, right? So let me just get back to our guide here, and here's how we're going to do this. It's just one single Power Effects formula, just this update if statement, and we're going to identify what is the ID of the task that is being changed and update the information. So we can see that we have this property called current ID. So if we go back here, I'm going to use this label to show. Right, so this is the object, this is the property, current ID. Oops,
Yeah.
it's in the wrong place. Here is the label, right? Yeah. So every time I'm interacting with the data here, we have this output of the component saying what is the ID of the data that we are making the change, and this allows us to leverage the PowerFX formula to
Right.
write back to the data source.
So that allows us to identify when a change is happening to any particular item on the roadmap, we know which one it is, and therefore using Power Effects, we can do something to process that change.
Yes. Right. So I'm going to copy and paste this Power Effects,
Yeah.
the onChange event. Let me just change the name of our component to match what we have in the formula.
Yeah.
So let's go back. Right.
Yes.
And so go.
I was just going to say
Yeah.
that is essentially a patch command or an update if to write back the start date, the due date, the category, because yeah, theoretically you can drag stuff between the different categories that's also supported. Priority is our subcategory, and yeah, what's interesting is we have different colors for different subcategories, and so yes, those are the reasons why you would potentially need to update all of those values. The other thing is I noticed you've got a bit of extra power effects at the end. I can confirm I think in an earlier version of the the roadmap component that was needed. I don't think you need that anymore. So
Yeah, this bit we actually
this bit was
don't anymore.
a way of manually controlling the refresh, but I don't think that's needed anymore. So it really is just this one power effects command. Okay, yeah, I was just trying to make sense of all the different column values that you're writing back, because you might be thinking actually it's just the start date and the end date, but actually
Yeah.
some more things which could be changing, right?
Yeah. We maybe don't want to change all of the the things. Maybe we'll just work with the data, the dates. So let's
Yeah,
do this way.
yeah. I think it depends really. I think if you think you're going to allow people to move items between different categories, then I think the rest also does make sense.
Yeah. All right. So at this point, the data is already being changed locally. So if I perform any change in any of the tasks right here, my local data, the collection, is already receiving the changes, right? So maybe if I,
Yeah, maybe we can just quickly look at that at the collection level, look at what the data is before, just to see how that looks before in the collection and how we prove that on change event is now successfully writing back to the collection.
okay,
Yeah.
so, right. So
Yes.
here we have all of the collection. What I'm trying to find the ones I see here in the screen.
Yeah, it can be a bit difficult
Let
because you've
me,
got a few tasks.
okay. So
Yeah,
create brand identity, which is
yeah,
the first one that we see here,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So it's currently got a
Starting.
start 8th of
Mm-hmm.
June
Mm-hmm. And
and
ending 8th
yeah,
of July.
yeah,
Right. Let's check again the columns. The start date
yeah,
and the end date. Right. So
yes.
now we can maybe
Adjust it.
end
Yeah.
this in August
Give
31.
yourself a lot of time for that one.
Yeah.
You've just nearly doubled it.
Now let's check the collection, and the end date should be the same that we just
Yes.
provided.
So
Yeah.
that's written to our collection, which is fine, but we
Mm-hmm.
haven't saved this back to SharePoint, right? And this is the point you were making earlier on for two reasons. One, if
Mm-hmm.
you're making lots of changes, you don't necessarily want to be saving back to SharePoint.
Mm-hmm.
And the second reason I can think of is that you may not be happy with all the changes that you've just made, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily want to commit them to SharePoint just yet. So having an intermediary collection makes sense for those two reasons, because once we're happy, we can then presumably have an external save button with a bit of power effects to commit those changes back to SharePoint, right?
Right. And another reason I think this is good is maybe someone is using this app for the first time, and the person is learning about how it works and start to make some changes, and
Yes.
this way we can make uh, sure that nobody's going to make a kind of mistake and write back to the
Yeah.
data source.
Yeah. And I guess
Mhm.
we could even implement a reset button if need be, because
uh,
we've got the data in
mhm.
SharePoint there for us. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's look at the save to SharePoint
Mhm.
side of things.
Okay. This could be your reset button. It's a better name for this button. All right.
Yes.
So,
Não conheço essa.
sorry, Alexa is talking.
What's Alexa saying? Is she trying to help?
Yeah, she said, I don't know about it.
We
Okay,
need to get
Alexa.
Alexa. We need the power effects skill for Alexa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's create this new button to save back data. And
You've given me an idea for a future episode there.
wow. Save, and let's use the icon for saving. Right. And what we can do right now is get the onChange property and write back the data. I'm going to use patch formula, and our data source, of course, is work progress tracker. And I'm going to patch back the data by using two columns, getting the ID and the data that we want to change, which is start date and due date.
So you show columns. I don't think you specified the collection name, right?
Oh, yeah. Good point. All right. Code roadmap. Thanks.
Reese.
Okay.
That
So
looks better.
we are making changes only on these two columns, start date and due date. And I believe this make the performance better because we're not giving all of the columns, and we're also providing the ID here.
Yes, and this is actually synchronizing now the local collection back to SharePoint, and it will incorporate any changes to any of the records where there have been
Right.
changes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think maybe it's a good idea to find the one we are making the change, which I believe is this one,
Mhm.
create identity. Yeah, to be used on the project, right? So let's see if it works. Now when I press the save button, I hope that the start date and due date are going to change. Let's refresh. All right, so yes, it worked. Now the start date's June 8 and the due date's August 31.
All right, so we've now got changes going back into SharePoint on
Yeah,
demand when we
yeah.
want them to be. Awesome.
All right, so I think this was the last part. Yeah, I'm sure this is the last part of.
Yes. Okay, so that was quite quick. You got a roadmap
Yeah.
connected to a local collection. We started off. It didn't look
Mm-hmm.
too good, but that was because we needed to specify colors. Of course, most of the time those color options won't be in your data source, and so you'd have to define them on top. So we defined some colors using a PowerFX switch statement, which we added to the generation of the collection.
Mm-hmm.
And thereafter, we added some filters, which allowed us to filter our roadmap by different criteria.
Mm-hmm.
We also had a filter for changing the timescales, so you could flip between monthly views, yearly views, daily views. And the last part of the demonstration and walkthrough was about how to save the data back
Mm-hmm.
to the data source, initially to the local collection, and then patching those changes back to SharePoint with a save button.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so amazing. We've covered what we needed to do for today's session.
Mm-hmm.
I must ask, I think we do this every week. I think we're going to finish off the whole navigation system at the end, but just to complete the page, I think we should add the navigation bar in from the
Oh,
previous
yeah.
pages.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is,
So you can just
yeah,
copy and paste this one.
yeah.
Let me move the buttons. Right.
Okay. So I think we've completed pretty much our milestone for today, which was introducing the roadmap experience into the app, the task management app.
Yeah.
It's nearly there, Leo. We've in the space of a short few hours, we've knocked out, I'd say, 80% of the app already.
Right. Yeah.
And we've got maybe a couple more episodes just to finish off things, including the dashboard.
Yes, I think the next session we may start to talk about the dashboard, which is which have very interesting charts and other things that we're going to cover.
Awesome. Brilliant. Well, Leo, I suggest we leave it there for today. Being a good
All
one.
right.
I can see
Yeah.
why this is one of your favorites. Very good. Very interesting component. Makes the app really spring to life. So
Yeah.
looking forward to another exciting one next week when we talk about the dashboards.
Yeah. Next week we're back again, and feel free to reach us, send your questions, interact with us.
Yes.
We're going to be happy to answer everybody.
Fantastic. All right, folks. All right, Leo. Same time, same place next week. Take care.
Take care. See you.